Welcome back to the Everyday Night. I'm Joe.
And I'm Jeff.
And Jeff, last time we talked about the year in review
Yes.
in terms of the virtues. So it seemed appropriate to talk about the other tradition of the changing of the year, and that's New Year's resolutions.
Right. Everybody makes them, and it's kind of a joke about who keeps them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there are statistics about how many people keep them, how many people make them. But I thought it would be appropriate to start with really, where does the idea come from of a New Year's resolution?
Right.
And we can get into that. But the first question is,
Oh, another New Year's tradition.
Another New Year's tradition. What, pray tell, are you drinking this evening?
I have an Old Forester. It's a bourbon, Old Forester 1920 Prohibition style, 115 proof.
Oh,
Yeah, it fights you a little bit. I don't mind when once in a while my whiskey, bites back a little bit, and this is definitely one of those.
so if it's prohibition style, should you be drinking it at all? Or out of a teacup? Or out of a bathtub? Or
No, it's gin. Gin's in the bathtub.
okay. Okay.
I hadn't thought about a teacup. That might have been appropriate, but nah.
Okay.
And you, sir, what's your
I have
preference?
a glass of Pinot Noir, which
All right.
went with the pizza I made for dinner. So
Okay.
yeah.
A French wine and Italian pizza? How dare you?
I'm very cosmopolitan that way.
Okay.
So
Okay.
and actually it's a California Pinot Noir. So
Well, pizza's not really Italian anyway. the way
we make it, yeah. But here you go.
All right. Cheers.
Um
Oh yeah.
So it seems that the the idea of making a resolution dates at the change of the year goes very far back.
Right. Like my little research found that back to at least the Babylonians,
Yes.
and not so much a resolution there, but a sort of paying tribute to the god of change.
Yes. And certainly when the Romans changed to the Julian calendar and made the 1st of January the beginning of the new year, which is named after Janus, the two-faced god, which is about change. That
Change,
seems
and I thought interesting that Janus was the god, the two-faced god, the god of looking forward and looking back, and of doorways. He was
yes.
Janus was the god of doorways and thresholds.
And I learned a technique that often proves useful if you ever have gone into another room with some purpose and then forgotten what the purpose is.
Yeah.
It's because going through a doorway resets your thinking. So what I do, I go back to the room I was in, stand there for a minute, and let my mind catch up, and then I remember what I was going in the other room for, and then I go in the other room and forget, and I come back, and I just But
Just
it
endlessly
actually
cycle around the doorway.
yeah, it actually does make a difference. So that tradition has been going for some time, and I've found that there are a number of times in the year that seem to lend themselves to reflection, to looking back and looking forward. Birthdays, for one, seem to do that for me. And so
birthdays, anniversaries,
and yeah, other things like that. So it's certainly we're not here to say it's not a good idea. It can be a very good idea to examine, to use this as a point of saying, going forward, particularly if people have had a break with the holidays, it's good to do that.
To me, it's kind of like between Thanksgiving and New Year's is kind of like the Fat Tuesday of the year, so that you can start the next year as Lent. I mean, it's an expanded version of Lent and Mardi Gras.
Well, and certainly the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year, between that and Yom Kippur are days of reflection and repentance and thinking and a time to reset. And by Yom Kippur, you are supposed to settle disagreements, debts, other things with people,
Right.
And be so that you can then, approach the new year and approach your Day of Atonement.
That was also in the Babylonian and Roman tradition of the new year to return farm implements was.
Oh, yeah.
What I found in my little bit of research, that was one thing. And I want to recall that we've talked about as a virtue, or something that we have found virtuous in our in this milieu that we talk about, is resolve is a thing that we admire. We admire a person's resolve, and resolution is just another form of the same word.
That
resolve and resolution.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So yes. we admire someone who has resolve.
Yes, and that virtue, and I think we'll look at the top resolutions that people make statistically, but they relate to the virtues. Actually, essentially, people intending to be more virtuous, and that's the resolutions. Most people don't keep them very long, which is because that requires another virtue as well, fortitude. And so the resolutions, there was another kind of vow that came up in what we were looking at, the peacock vow.
The medieval knight's vow, right?
Yes. So in the 14th century, there were a couple of feasts centered around birds, and this gave rise to several long poems about vows made on birds, including one made on a peacock, where knights supposedly would vow on the peacock. But it was essentially the same idea of making a resolution, making a promise, vowing to do something. So, so people make resolutions, and that's one of the reasons that gyms have an increase in membership and attendance in January. That trails off in February, and then it goes back to normal for a lot of people. The statistics we found say that about almost 2/3 of people feel pressured to set a New Year's resolution, which is interesting. And the most common, first of all, only about 37% of Americans set a resolution or have, and
you mean like a serious resolution, or
yes.
Okay.
And it's interesting. My father said, "Don't make a resolution, make a plan." And I think that's important, because if you're going to stick with it, if you want to accomplish something, you have to have a plan to accomplish it. Just saying, "I want to do something," is not a way to accomplish it. The top resolution is, about half of people, their top resolution is to improve their fitness.
Okay.
which is why we see an increase in gym memberships. 4 and 5 are lose weight and improve diet, which is also related to
Related.
fitness. The second one is improved finances. It's about 38% of people. And the fourth one is improved mental health, about 36% of the people. So essentially, what people are saying is, I want to be fitter. I want to be more financially stable. I want to have a better mental health. I want to,
Mhm.
healthy mind, healthy body, healthy living situation, pocketbook, right? Pocketbook.
Right.
Nobody says pocketbook anymore. Um, and then I think that's coming in at number 6 is make more time for loved ones,
Okay.
which is interesting because the first 5 are about the individual, about themselves, and the sixth one is about,
Yeah.
well, it could be interpreted it's about other people, more time for them. And the rest go back to, except for improve work life balance. It drops down quickly to the single digits after that.
I've got a little thing here that compares Gallup poll resolutions from 1947 to, I don't know when this was published, but to more recent Gallup polls. Well, 2023. In 1947, the number one resolution, according to Gallup, was to improve my disposition, be more understanding, and control my temper. Isn't that interesting? That was the number one resolution. Number 2 was improve my character and live a better life. And not till number 3 do we get things like stop smoking.
Wow.
Save money, stop drinking. Number 6 in 1947 was be more religious, go to church more often. And
Yeah,
number 7
it's not anywhere on the list that for the Forbes survey.
It's interesting. I mean, 7 is be more efficient, do a better job. Like there's a work ethic, I suppose, at work there, but
The last one on the list is perform better at work, and it's at 3% of the people. So I think that the issue is, and as I said, my father said, don't make a resolution. He may have said, don't make a resolution unless you make a plan. It's good to have a goal. It's good to do that, but you have to plan to how you're going to do that. And
well, I think you just the difference between saying I need to lose weight and saying I need to get down to 180 pounds.
Yes. I plan to lose weight, and here's how I plan to do it. I will take these concrete steps. And I think that's the difference. I think that's why most people who make resolutions, they only stick with it for 2 months, 3 months at most. I once made a resolution not to tell any bad jokes, and it lasted for 3 minutes and 27 seconds.
Yeah. I once resolved to be more flexible. But I was kind of, this way.
So it didn't involve a stretching routine. So
no.
So I think that the ones that are self-oriented, fitness, improving your attitude, improving your weight, those are the question, I think, is, are the virtues, because we've talked about the virtues as being actions, are the virtues internally focused or are they externally focused? Or do you have to do the internal part to be able to do the external part? We talk about franchise as being able to take positive action, to do things, because you see it and therefore you have to do it. And that's external, it's action. But things like veritas, truthfulness, has to be internal. You have to understand what the truth is in order to speak it.
Right.
Courage is internal, but it's expressed externally through your actions. Although you could also say it's expressed by facing honestly that which you need to make resolutions about and improve. So I think there's a lot of the virtues. We look back at examples of the virtues with some difficulty over the past year. I think resolutions are looking forward at improving virtuousness.
Well, yeah, even if it's something as retroactive as saying, well, I'll never do that again.
Yes. Well, learning from your mistakes is
Sure.
certainly important.
And I think there's a when we talk about the virtues being actions, I think we are talking about less about adopting a virtue as manifesting a virtue. If you see what I mean, that
Yes. Yeah.
we want to we don't merely want to think more about this thing. We want to be more like that thing.
Be more like that thing, and your actions reflect that.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yes, and I think that in some ways the older list of resolutions that you said
Mm-hmm.
were higher aspirations in some ways.
Well, it strikes me
Maybe
that,
less concrete, but
yeah, it strikes me that I think in 1947, because not in that list, number 10 is lose or gain weight. Your fitness, your physical being comes much lower on the list than it does now. I mean, they've got to take better care of my health, but that's, yeah, and that's not just, I mean, losing weight can be a vanity thing as much as a health thing, right? So, and not to say that you shouldn't, because you're just being vain if you want to lose weight. If you need to lose weight for health reasons, please, that's terrific. But yeah, in 1947, stop drinking or drink less is number 5.
and certainly dry January is a commonly made resolution now.
Oh, okay.
Which obviously we are not doing.
Yeah. Outside of my experience.
Yeah. But I think that I see the reasons for that following the holidays, where there tend to be parties and get-togethers and celebrations and so on. It okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, everybody's at one point or another who has drank a little too much said, "Well, I'm never doing that again. I'll never drink again," and that's just a ridiculous prayer.
Well, and some people don't drink, and it's fine.
But I mean,
and I don't think drinking to excess was a thing of our misspent youth, but a lesson learned also of what.
I was having a conversation with somebody just this week about, I mean, then this person was expressing, he's a much younger coworker, and he said that he had decided that during this holiday, on this night, he and his friends were going to go get drunk. And it occurred to me that I've never said that to myself, that I've never said, I never made a plan to go out and drink too much. Every time I have drank too much, which I certainly admit that I have, it's sort of crept up on me without my realizing it, and it was too late. All of a sudden I said, oh, I've had too much to drink, and then I usually stop or taper off or whatever. but it's never been my goal at the beginning of the evening to be drunk by the end of it.
Yeah, it's a different way of thinking about it, I think, than the way we approach it. We've been starting every one of these episodes with what are you drinking? But it's not, we have not, the drunk is not the goal. It's never
No,
been the goal.
charming is the goal.
Yeah. Then you need to drink more.
Oh, okay. Thanks, I will.
No, because the more you drink, the more charming I am. Right.
Well, the better looking you are.
Yeah, well, that's it. But as I said, this is what I had with dinner. And that's often what when we do these after dinner,
Yeah.
this is often what I had and am continuing to have.
I don't often drink with dinner. I drink mainly socially. So
Yeah.
you and I, while we're being social, I will have a drink.
And that makes sense.
Like smoking a cigar. I don't sit in my house and smoke, but if there's a group of people, a group of gentlemen who, to me, it goes, sipping a cocktail, smoking a cigar goes along with conversation.
As does food.
Yes.
As does funny hats.
Funny hats. Okay.
If you've ever worn a funny hat, it will start a conversation.
Okay. Is it the right kind of conversation? I only once or twice in my life have had someone come up to me and say, do you need help? Are you all right?
But it's a conversation, nonetheless.
I suppose.
I think that I certainly encourage people to make improvements, examine their lives, and pick something that they can improve. They want to improve. They want to change, but you have to make a plan, not just a resolution, but a plan in order to actually accomplish it. How many people have said, it'd be great to learn a new language, but then they don't do it. Now people have apps and they're actually
right.
posting as a way of accountability. I've done this many days of it in a row.
Well, that technology really has helped that. That's a recording and playback device that you can carry in your pocket all the time.
Yep.
Whereas before, learning a new language meant going and taking a night course or going home and just sitting listening to a recording on a phonograph or a tape recorder or something, and now you can do it while you're driving your car.
Right. And I actually, when I have been in plays in the theater, I found that learning my lines, the best way for me to do that was by listening to a recording. Mm-hmm. So I would, and this was, I was driving a lot and had a tape player in my car.
Right.
And I would record a cassette. One side I read the cue lines and my lines for all the lines I had. And the other side of the tape had just the cue lines and then a blank space in the tape where I could say my lines. So I would put the first side in and I'd play and listen and replay, and I could just go back and do it and go a little further each time and repeat and so on. And when I thought I had it or part of it, I'd turn it over and do it along with the in the blank space. And that I found was useful because if you ever memorize something by reading it, you see people tend to look up when they're retrieving something from memory, and it's like they're reading from the book in their head.
Right.
Whereas but then it goes out, and eventually if you repeat it enough, you no longer have to read it from the book in your head. And
Well, it's like singing the lyrics of a song,
right. So
already. You don't even think about it.
I bypassed that step and went from auditory memorization to speaking, and found it was much quicker, much more efficient. But that's a technique that works for me. But again, I had to have a plan for how I would do this. Something I tell students all the time: you cannot wait until the last minute to start a thing and expect to accomplish it at the quality that you would like to achieve.
Right.
You also don't want to jump in and finish it right away. You want to, and the study I've seen say the best, most innovative work, the highest quality work is made when you get your ideas down quickly as soon as you learn about the thing, and you do that, and then you stop and you put it aside for a bit, and then you come back to it with fresh eyes, and then you revise it and so on. And that works. But again, it's a plan for how to accomplish something. And I think that's the main point of what I'm saying here, is that resolutions are great, but make a plan for how you'll stick to it.
This little thing I've got here that I found is 10 tips for making resolutions. And number one is avoid wording your resolution negatively, such as quitting or stopping or I'm not going to do this. Say I want to do this instead. I want to, like I was saying, instead of I want to lose weight. It's like, no, I want to achieve this weight.
Right. Or instead of every time I think of smoking, I will chew gum, or I'll do this other thing, or I'll sing the Star Spangled Banner, or I could get really noisy, but something like that. Yeah.
Another one is set aside time on your calendar to check your progress. Like give yourself milestones.
Yep.
Keep it simple. 1 or 2 goals, not a big list. Number 4 is pick a goal you think will make you feel better. Not a goal that will beat you down every time, but a goal to make you feel better. Make it specific and measurable. Consider what obstacles get in your way and see how to remove those barriers when you begin, so that you know that you're going to find this in your way when you get to a certain point. Can you remove that early so that you don't run up against it? Should be time bound and realistic. Should have an end goal, a date.
Yeah. So, and everything you're saying is part of a planning process.
Yep, absolutely. And that's kind of why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
And the last one is, if you slip up, don't worry about it. If you fall off a little bit, don't say, well, it's broken, and throw it away.
So cool. So do you have any resolutions for the year?
Nah. Well, I was going to resolve to be more self-confident, but I knew I'd never keep it.
Is there any room for additional self-confidence?
Well, I don't make resolutions because for good or ill, I'm always trying to make little improvements all the time. And, I fail, or I realize that this thing's gotten in my way and I need to get back to it. Like the gym, and it's been a year since I've been outside of the gym because I found myself in a situation where it became extremely difficult to find time to go to the gym.
Yeah.
And so I got out of the habit, and I know I'm out of the habit. And I said, well, I also realized it's no point in me saying I'm going to go back after the first of the year, because like you said, it's packed
Right.
until February. So starting in February, I'm going to start going back to the gym. That's my goal.
Okay. And habits, you mentioned habits, and I think that's really important. How, and I don't remember, but it takes a certain number of repetitions and a certain amount of time for something to become habitual.
Yeah.
And that's significant because habituating your actions it can be part of your plan. It makes it more likely that you will stick to the resolution and achieve it.
Yeah.
Along with all the other steps you mentioned. Well,
So,
good. Yeah.
This is pretty straightforward. We're
Yeah.
talking about something everybody understands, and it's not too esoteric.
But it does relate to the virtues, as we mentioned at the beginning. So,
and I'm glad that you suggested this, because it gave me that impetus to look up the history of it, and I found interesting things there, that, like you said, the peacock vow and the beginnings of it being in pre-Christian Europe, as a tribute, as an offering to God to improve your life in the next year somehow. So
I'm sure if we did more research, we'd find it, a lot of examples across cultures.
Yeah, I suspect so. So, but anyway, everybody, thanks for coming again. Please resolve to like and share, and give us a comment.
And watch for news about our 100th episode.
Yes, we haven't decided yet, or whether we're going to do like a lottery or a contest of some sort, but there will be a prize.
There will be a prize.
So stay tuned.
Okay. So until then, till we see you again, be thou
a good night
and true.